Unfiltered with Bran Otieno and Dongo Gashane.
Hello and welcome to Unfiltered, a current affairs podcast that comes your way every Thursday here on KTN News, as well as all our platforms on Standard Digital on KTN. My name is Brian Otieno. I'm a political affairs reporter here at the Standard. I'll be hosting this show alongside...
I'm Dongo Gashane, and as you have said, this is a show that strips away the noise and dives straight into the issues that matter.
Hallelujah. We strip away the noise.
Kabisa.
So today we'll be hosting Kamau Ngugi. Bwana Kamau Ngugi here is executive director of the Defenders Coalition. Bwana Ngugi, perhaps you could introduce yourself and tell us what you do at the Defenders Coalition.
Thank you. You know how lovely it is to be introduced. Sometimes we forget so much about ourselves. But yes, my name is Kamau Ngugi. I'm the executive director of the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders, popularly known as the Defenders Coalition. I also have other titles, but I could also mention that I also chair the Eastern Horn of Africa Human Rights Defenders Network, which basically brings together different national platforms that advocate for the rights of people at the front line defending rights.
So what is the Defenders Coalition?
So Defenders Coalition, as I said, it's a national platform for activists. People call them activists, but we prefer to say that they're human rights defenders because these are people driven by passion on issues that are affecting the society, particularly issues about access to justice, about being able to feed your family, because that's the right to food. It's about how you get development because you have a government that you have elected. So if they don't deliver, then it means that you have a challenge. So the people who have the courage to speak, to say when things are wrong, are called human rights defenders. And we realize that for a long time, human rights defenders, you care about your community, but nobody cares about you. So our advocacy is around to tell people that those people that you wake up in the night, in the middle of the night, and tell them, please do something about my case. Do something about my land that is being stolen. The people who say, my children are not going to school because the education is collapsing. Those are the people we call human rights defenders. So our platform is to advocate for their rights. And when they are at risk, we also ensure that we mitigate the aspects of risk that come to them.
Wow. We're having this discussion just a few hours after two of the officials of the Free Movement Kenya were, I don't know what to say, whether they were arrested or kidnapped while in Uganda. And we have not seen any statement from the Kenyan authorities over the arrest of their own citizens. How would you say is the state of human rights situation in our country?
Yeah. Well, you're raising a very important question that woke me up. Yesterday, of course, I had an idea. So we had received some information about the disappearance of Bob Jagi and Nicholas. And the both of them had traveled to Uganda. And let me start by saying that every citizen of the world should move anywhere, as long as, and especially where you are allowed to the freedom to travel, and the country where you are going has given you authorization. In the case of East Africa, you know that we talk about the East African community, the free movement of goods, the free movement of people. In fact, we are even talking about a common currency. So by hearing that Bob Jagi and Nicholas would disappear in the streets of Kampala, it's quite unfortunate. But I must also say that it is not the first cases that has come to our attention, particularly for people who are vocal defending rights. Recently, we had to, we were so appalled by the experiences of our friends, activists, people who are very strong, like Boniface Mwangi, when they had visited Tanzania with full authorization just to go and go to court and listen into the cases that are going on for some of the opposition people that are facing serious charges. The same thing, there have also been visits to other countries. So what I worry is that there is this now state of repression that is being replicated in the East African region, but also in other parts of the world, but more so in Africa. So, and that brings to the question of what is the state of human rights. I think I always say that we are faring very badly, particularly as a country with regards to human rights. And how do we assess this? It's very simple. We are among the countries that have very progressive constitution, and it has given us a whole chapter on the Bill of Rights, and it says how citizens need to be treated, how they need to be protected, that the right to life, the right not to be tortured, the right not to be, their liberty to be protected. When it comes to economic rights, talking about the right to health and all that. At the same time, the Constitution tells us you have to be the ones to safeguard the Constitution. So everyone in Kenya is an activist, is a human rights defender. But now, when you see what has been listed as people's rights, the Constitution has all that list, and you find that the state which has been given the responsibility to safeguard, to protect, and ensure that other people do not take away your rights, that they are responsible for all manner of violations. So in terms of assessing the Bill of Rights, you'll find that Kenya currently is faring really terribly. Because you can never imagine that we are speaking right now, and I don't know who will be waiting for me out there thinking that they need to kidnap me because I have an opinion that is different from theirs. That is how we should never be that way. The right to life, the fact that you have a state, the state that has been given power and mandate to rule, its first duty is to protect its citizen and to ensure that citizens feel safe.
So let me take you back to Njagi. And have you been able to establish where they are? Are you trying to reach out to the authorities? What are they telling you?
So far, we only have one or two people who claim who have said that they are eyewitnesses. And we are trying to liaise with our colleagues in Uganda, first of all, to establish facts. And that's the reason why you've seen there is a lot of delay in terms of maybe public condemnation or public raising of the issue, because as a human rights defender, the first thing you do is to get facts right. So, but having said that, it's already more than, I think, almost 24 hours since the mention of the disappearance. The family have reached out to us. We have already advised them they need to report to the nearest police stations so that, first of all, there is a record. But having said that, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has its cardinal duty to protect its own citizen in Kenya and abroad. So I would expect by now, my good brother in the foreign ministry, they should be able to account for the whereabouts of the two citizens. We can help as we connect with the ground and friends on the ground to tell us if they have any idea of where those people could be. Then those are information we are willing to share with the state authorities. But it's the duty of our state authorities to ensure that they are safe.
Yes, you say that we are fearing or we are doing badly in terms of the violation of human rights. But we understand this is not the first time we're having an administration. How would you compare the situation with other past regimes? We had the regime of former President Uhuru Kenyatta. We also had the administration of Mwai Kibaki, and of course the second president, Daniel Moi. All the way, how if you compare the situation, how would you rate?
The interesting part is that whenever I've tried to speak to a family member of a victim of human rights violation or someone who have disappeared, who have lost their son or daughter, the world begins and ends with their loss. So if for me, who have interacted with a lot of families of victims and also survivors, I can tell you the situation is so dire. For all the governments that have been there during colonialism and post-colonialism, but specifically talking about the post-constitution of the 2010, I think that is one that we have much more codified list of things that should never happen to anybody and things that the government must do to people. So I would say that we saw some attempt by the first government post 2010 of Kibaki, ensuring that we have clear institutions and also institutions of oversight, like the IPOA, institutions of oversight, the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights, and also very strong judiciary. But we have also seen since since the Kibaki regime, the next regime was led by President Uhuru Kenyatta. We saw a lot of complaints around people who are opposed to the regime, all of a sudden starting to disappear in communities, particularly poor communities. That is why we had the mention of Riwayara. At the same time, that's
And it's something you'd never seen before.
We never imagined that would happen. Of course, yes, we had an issue with the during Kibaki regime when young people that were branded as Mungeke were disappeared. And then we were lucky to have the UN Special Rapporteur, Philip Aston, come here and confirm more than 500 young people had been killed. But I can also tell you that the justification then was that these are crime, and you will also tell me that the crime rate at that point was so high. But there should never be any justification because we have courts. But it has never ever happened, or I've never imagined in my life that I would see young people being shot on the street, killed, and others kidnapped and disappeared. And I think that is why the focus is on the current government of President Ruto, in which we have seen extraordinary measures being targeted at young people whose only crime is holding a Bible, is holding a constitution, it is holding a flag, and actually having a phone. And we counted so many cases of disappearances, so many cases of killing and injuries, and that really places the serious concern of where are we going as a country.
Why do you think the human rights situation is much worse right now? What are some of the factors that are contributing to the worsening situation?
I think it's quite anywhere you go to the world. I happen to have a chance to travel and also to read a lot of and to participate in the development of many human rights reports. You will find that we as citizens, we are willing to identify people that represent our interests to govern us the way we want. The challenge is that when people get to power, they think of how they are going to perpetuate their stay in power forever. They want to grab and steal everything that exists there. They want to abuse the processes that have been established to govern. For example, the courts. They don't want the courts to function. They also want to amass wealth, and I think that remains the biggest challenge. So the contest is between the citizen want to be governed in a way that they have the future, they're able to think about their children, they're able to feed them today, but at the same time they know that there are opportunities for the future. Now the contest comes when some people in power start grabbing everything, taking it away, and then you leave a very desperate situation. So when people start questioning that, then you find that now the state in charge start deploying its machineries. But at the same time, that allure of power, it makes people who want to perpetuate power to start eliminating anyone who contests the fact that they are not doing right. I feel that we must check that, and this is for every government, including the present government of President Ruto. He has to ensure that the people of Kenya are governed in the same way they give them the mandate to rule. So they give them a mandate to rule, to follow the constitution, to follow the laws, but also to govern the resources and ensure that those resources trickle down to the people so that they can thrive.
Now, when you talk about the situation of those people who are killed during protests, do you have probably numbers on the human rights defenders who are actually face arbitrary arrest? Some are killed. Do you have a number that you can say that these people were arrested because of the issues of participating or pushing for certain rights?
I will tell you why I will not give you the numbers. Because who is a human rights defender? So sometimes people think that the vocal people that you and me know, those are the human rights defenders. So people, I'll tell you, for example, people believe that the only persons that have been facing serious allegations of terrorism or serious charges like murder, that the new prosecutor seems to be preferring against people who either participated in protests. People only think it is a Boniface Mwangi, people think select people. The truth of the matter is that the right to protest is guaranteed within our constitution, Article 37. Even for you to speak, it's the freedom of the media. It is protected. So what we've been seeing is that the mass arrests, kidnapping of those people who exercise that right. And all I'm telling you is that anyone who, because of the dictates of the Constitution, that allows you to speak up, to question and to hold people, the people in government to account. So all those people are what we call human rights defenders. So we cannot have a dichotomy of who are the people that I can allocate as human rights defenders that were killed. All those young people that were killed are human rights defenders. Okay. All those people who are facing trumped-up charges are human rights defenders because they are defending rights that everyone should enjoy.
Before we had this show, we were having a heated debate with my brother, Brian Otieno, and we were asking ourselves, members of the political class also counted as activists? Are they?
You see, now there is that expectation that, yes, you should defend rights in every corner and sphere you are at. But you will find that as a human rights defender, I'm not interested in power. So when you start telling me, can I vie for a political seat, what I'll say is that I'll stop defending the people's rights from the what we call from the trenches, and then I'll seek the mandate of the people to go to parliament, where I'll be guided by this state institution.
But
so at that point, you can be you'll be a human rights defender because you are defending a particular right. But at the same time, I also know that you are interested in political power. And sometimes that is where now we try to change.
The question is, we also have some leaders, the political leaders, who also have some political ambitions, like the PLP leader, Mother Karua, who is also regarded as is it a political activist or a human rights defender?
Yes.
So the moment you start salivating for a political seat, does that make you stop being a human rights defender?
So you see, when Mother eventually probably reaches the seat and becomes the president, of course, I'll be the first person to hold her accountable.
Okay.
In the meantime, if she's advocating for rights of persons with a disability, the rights of women, the rights of citizens to own land, or when they are, even if they are in precarious position of land ownership, they are not just displaced anyhow.
Yes.
If she continues speaking about the right to fair trial, that is a human rights defender.
Okay.
Bwana Ngugi, you're the executive director of the Defenders Coalition, so you must be an expert in coalitions. If you look at what is happening in East Africa, people abducted in Ugandans abducted in Kenya, 𝐶𝐓𝐀𝐄, a Tanzanian was abducted here as well, Kenyans abducted in Uganda, Kenyans abducted in Tanzania. Do you see a coalition of sorts among these three countries, to stifle human rights?
Yeah, there is, as I told you, also we are the heart of the chair of the Eastern Horn of Africa Human Rights Defenders Network, and I get the opportunity to interact. One of the biggest challenge of the day is that it seems that there is a new trend moving from the aspiration of democratic state to autocratic states, and that allure of sustaining power beyond constitutional requirements. It seems to be the one that is really now becoming the norm. And at the same time, whereby, let me explain that. A situation whereby you find that people do not want critics in their own countries, but also fear that if in other spaces where people are audible or speaking about rights, that information should not reach their own countries. And that is why we really concerned that even what we call the protection that is required. First of all, we already complained that there is no protection within our own states. But I also say that when I go to the next country, I should be provided with the protection. In fact, there's what we call the asylum and refugee laws that says that if I'm uncomfortable in Kenya, where I'm faced with risk here, I can go to another country and receive the protection of that state. So unfortunately, what we are finding is that the countries are sharing what I would call bad manners. Bad manners, they are killing, they are willing to kill, or people, or some of the states seems to be willing to donate their own citizens to be tortured in other countries.
And this is also forcing you, as human rights defenders from across the region, to unite.
And honestly, I think when you're all pushed to a corner, sometimes you also have to re-strategize on how you need to survive. And we have recognized that, first of all, as East Africans, we are brothers and sisters. So, and we have stopped these condemnations of Tanzanians are bad or Ugandans are bad, Kenyans are bad. No, it is the leadership that is bad. It is the leadership that is authorizing, for example, that a strong activist like Maria Saruji, who is based in Nairobi, that she should be abducted and almost be exported to Tanzania. That's not allowed. In fact, the Kenyan police should never allow the practice of extraterritorial violation that are taking place. Like you can be exported to face torture, which is again the same thing that happened to BCG. BCG was here in Nairobi. And we hope that the Kenyan court will pronounce itself and say it is not allowable that any citizen of anywhere in the world should be grabbed in the streets, exported to face torture in their own countries. That is not allowed, which is the same thing that we have also seen in the case of our own, when they went to Tanzania, and then they are grabbed, they are tortured, and they are brought back. And you see that when it comes to the people who we should trust, in the foreign affairs docket, you find that speaking in a language that encourages Tanzania to behave the way it has done. We fear now, instead of rushing to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the families are scared and they don't want to go to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. They are coming to human rights defenders. And they are saying, can you help us save our brothers in the streets of Kampala who have disappeared? And we tell them, no. I think what we should be building is trust in governance, whereby we should be able to trust that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should take care of all its citizens, not just the citizen where they can choose and pick the person who they consider is not politically active. I think it should be anyone. And I think, yes, we are working strongly because these are all negative forces that we need to fight. The Tanzanians want a good government. They want a situation where every citizen can enjoy rights, that they can enjoy the privileges that are available for citizens. So is Kenyans and so are Ugandans. So I think it's a collective call. I would not be shy to speak and talk about the bad things that are happening in Uganda and Tanzania and in Kenya, because we are all fighting for a better country, a better East African region.
Now, we have seen the country Kenya is a member, or is a member of the International Convention for Protection of All Persons Against Enforced Disappearances. But there has been reluctance to implement that particular convention. What do you think, what do you make of that failure by the government to do that?
Actually, one of the reasons why people are so proud, associate Kenya with progress is because I think Kenya has signed off to so many of international conventions and even regional ones.
Yes.
The problem is the practice of it. But also, I've also noticed that the Kenya is very careful. They will sign on to what we call generals, the one that are general statements that have lower level of accountability. So, in the one that you're mentioning around the enforced disappearances, Kenya is happy to sign on to the convention, but it has not signed to what we call the optional protocol. The optional protocol has very direct commitments that are enforceable. So, like for example, the UN bodies should be able to hold Kenya to account for specific cases.
Yes.
But right now, Kenya can only be told you're not doing right in the area of, and I think that has been, if you look, for example, the convention that, even for human rights, we don't have a convention for human rights defenders, but we have the UN Declaration for Human Rights Defenders, which Kenya has endorsed, which means that any country that has endorsed to that UN Declaration for Human Rights Defenders, they should be providing us with a very conducive environment to be able to criticize government, criticize corporations that are here and exploiting people, are not paying well, or people who are grabbing other people's land. But today, when you raise concerns about those hot button issues, then you find that you are targeted. And actually, the state is the one that is facilitating the person who is killing you or targeting you. So I think what we need is to transform from just being a country that is listed among people that are progressive because they are signed on to laws, to actually the domestication part of it.
Yes.
Because if we, for example, had a law for human rights defenders domesticated in Kenya, then when Bob Jagi, for example, is right now, we don't know where he is, we should be able to use that law to demand that there is action. Yeah. Or the same thing if, for example, Boniface
what kind of action?
Of course, it comes with like just like any law. It comes if you violate this law, then these are the repercussions. Whether it is fine or whether it is spending time in jail, for example, those are the things that should be important. And you see that when the country has engaged in enforced disappearance, for example, it is so difficult to charge someone for that crime.
Yeah.
So they look for other crimes, basically that are within our infrastructure to charge you.
Oh, okay.
And I think for people who have been following up on particularly on the cases on the killing of women, that has been happening, what we call femicide.
Yes. So
people that have engaged in that very serious crime, they'll either be accused of either murder or they will be accused, which are serious crimes. But what will happen is, if there was a specific registration on femicide, what will mean is that those cases will have, for example, special courts that are addressing it. They'll fast track the process so that when two people find that you engage in the killing of a woman, and within 1 year you have been sentenced to very serious into jail for 35 years or 50 years or forever, it means that the next person will be very careful on how they behave. Yeah. And those are the specific call that we have, that we let's not just have conventions, but let's have specific laws.
I'm more interested in the optional protocols that you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if Kenya were to violate any of those provisions, what can the UN do to Kenya, honestly? As we talk about this last week, presidents at the United Nations General Assembly were all talking about how the UN has become weak, how its credibility is threatened. It's almost becoming illegitimate. So what can the UN do to Kenya if it violates any of these provisions?
Yeah. So let's agree what the UN is. It's a body of nations, and mostly what I call progressive democratic nations are the ones who are members of the UN. And therefore they have that body they call the United Nations that has different departments that, like, basically say, as peers, there is a way we need to be identified. So one of the things that we should not be identified with is grabbing people on the streets and disappearing them. So because it also means, therefore, that we should have courts of law and a whole justice infrastructure. If I am angry with you, I'll make a claim at a police station, I'll be arrested, and then there will follow a due process. So in other words, it is not enough to be angry with the position that I have taken on a particular issue. So what is happening right now with the UN is that it has created that infrastructure of how states should treat its own people and how even they should treat each other. We should actually be careful to say that the UN is a toothless bulldog, because especially for my country, Kenya.
That was Ruto. That was what Ruto was saying.
It's very dangerous because on one hand, when we feel overwhelmed, let's say in Haiti, where we are carrying a heavy burden as a country, where we have sent our own soldiers, you're still appealing to the same UN and you call it a toothless bulldog. You cannot do that. That's what we call double speak. What we should be working for is for people to meet the aspirations that are already set. That if we said we will not be disappearing people, then as a member of those United Nations, let's agree. I don't want to be that one, what I call that bad sheep. I don't want to call it black sheep. I'm black. But you see the language of black sheep. They always say that. But it means, therefore, that Kenya need to be held in high regard.
Yes.
It is not just about the kind of roads that we are going to construct. It's about how you treat those citizens, because it's a citizen that require to drive on those roads. It is not just about telling us how we are going to grow our economy. It's about ensuring that everyone is able to feed their family. So I think and that we should also allow that when the nation or the country and the government fails to meet its commitment, it should be held to account by its own citizens.
Now,
and I think that is where most of the time I find that
Yes.
I don't even need the UN. But I don't want to be, anytime I travel out of this country, I am told, oh, you're from Kenya, or you're the people who are kidnapping people. It is very wrong. But I've always been proud when I'm asked by anyone, oh, you're from Kenya. Are you the people who are holding your government to account? We like what you do.
Now, most of the human rights lobby groups have been calling and pushing and demanding that the UN Special Rapporteur be allowed to visit Kenya to assess the human rights situation. Why is that important? And what next, supposing even the government allows him to?
I think my country is becoming the laughing stock of especially the Human Rights Council and even the African Commission for Human and People's Rights, because Kenya never says no to allow the UN mechanisms or even the African mechanism to come and audit how our country is doing. Because we are very nice in platitude, saying, oh, in Kenya we observe human rights, we respect the rule of law. The truth of the matter is that let's bring this mechanism to have on the ground conversation with victims, on the ground conversation with the people in positions of power, those that are in these institutions, to give a credible report of how Kenya is. So the game that Kenya has been playing is that it has what we call, anytime there is a request, because, for example, UN Special Rapporteur, for him to come to Kenya on an official visit, they will require a written permission by Kenya. So at international forum, Kenya says, yeah, you are welcome to come. But, and the UN mechanism have written to Kenya. What they do is that they keep all the letters pending. They don't invite, they don't say no. So basically, they in a situation whereby they always say, yeah, we have received, we are reviewing it. But the truth of the matter is that Kenya must change in the eyes of the international community, becoming a laughing stock. They say the people who always say who never say nothing. And we have also seen on the same note, on critical issues, for example, even when we are spotlighting other countries, Kenya would always refuse to take a stand, especially when it matters to human rights. When you hear, for example, country, we need to have a special investigation of atrocities that are happening in a neighboring country, let's say Ethiopia. Kenya will not sign on to that, but it should be the first. If you believe in democracy, it should be among the first people to sign off and allow that. But Kenya always abstains. But I think we need to do more.
Bwana Gashane, what I'm hearing from Mr. Ngugi here is that Kenya is very good at playing PR.
It's like
Kizungu mingi.
Kenya kwa kizungu mingi bwana anajulikana. And I think at this rate, I don't even think any one of us will ever get a job at the UN level. Because they say you come and bring your kizungu mingi and you never do anything.
So you're saying that tumekuwa watu wa cinema, and and something people were calling, a cinema a few weeks ago was this compensation committee that was set up by the president, but now is pending thanks to a court case. What is your opinion on that committee? Do you think it's, it has a mandate to carry out its work?
It's called a committee of experts, I guess, on compensation.
Yes.
Okay. Look, the reason why we are so proud as Kenyans is to have the 2010 Constitution, and actually globally we are really, really respected for that, is because we did not just have the Constitution, but we had enforceable mechanisms. We even have institutional infrastructure. So specific to the institution that has been given the mandate to deal with matters of human rights in Kenya is what we call the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights.
Yes.
So it has power to investigate violations. It has also been given the power actually to summon individuals who engage in violations. They can recommend even prosecution. They can also do one of the most critical aspects of justice, which is compensation. Now, you see, they have different areas. They will not just do compensation, but they also have an infrastructure for accountability. So what now, it's another now, this mchezo, and I call this another mchezo, is that we have an institution that the taxpayers are paying money to sustain an institution. This Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, it has offices. It has offices in Ikitare, in Nairobi, in Mombasa, in Wajir, in Laikipia. Basically, if we needed to respond to issues of who are the victims that need to be compensated, it has a whole infrastructure. They are the ones that already have records. They have been telling the government, you have killed people, you have injured people, and telling them on a daily basis.
But we haven't seen them push for compensation that much.
Well, why would they push for compensation alone outside of the requirement that the people who killed the people, these young people, need to be held to account?
Accountability and justice.
For as long as the persons that kidnap and the persons who kill are in the streets and nothing happens to them, so as long as even if you continue compensating, they will continue killing.
But
so what do you want?
Can
you have a sustainable way of compensating people? But at the same time, they're also being killed. That is not sustainable. So but just clearly to respond to your question, the truth of the matter is that we have an infrastructure called the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. This other ad hoc committee, I would call them a PR committee, because it's just going to touch on the surface of an aspect of justice. And to be honest with you, I want every victim of injustice, every victim of police violence, every victim of killing, that the police, the families need to be compensated. That's the starting point. But connected with that, there must be justice that relates to accountability.
I get you very
so
well.
If you're not going to deal with accountability, it's another PR. Let's not do this.
Yes, but
I think those victims need better. They also need the people who kill their own sons to also be held to account.
Which we hope that they also get justice, because people who kill other people belong to jail. But the members of the so-called PR committee, according to Mr. Ngugi, is comprised of some of your mates who are human rights defenders. And
some of them are great friends and very strong human rights defenders.
Yeah, and we have also seen the Law Society of Kenya President 𝐒𝐓𝐀𝐓𝐄 and they took over their positions were it not for the order by the High Court. Are you suggesting that these people did not know that probably they were being duped to get into the PR committees?
Let me say, that's a good question. I have a lot of regards and respect for 𝐒𝐓𝐀𝐓𝐄, Hilton Irungu, and some of the members, I will not say all, but some of the members that have been identified in that panel. And I know that probably their hearts, because I've worked with them, I believe that they are so committed to justice and they feel this is an opportunity. What they fail to look at is the continuum of similar other initiatives, let me call them presidential initiatives that have come up, and they have all come to nothing. I did a lot of work on the violation that took place in 2007, and then the call for the infrastructure for compensation. I mean, it was a debacle. It was terrible. You find that the people that benefited most, I can tell you, would be people who, some of them were not victims. Others were in the provincial administration. I mean, it became a cash cow, and whereby the real people in need were not supported. But even worse is that you find sometimes eminent persons, respected people like 𝐒𝐓𝐀𝐓𝐄 and Irungu, can easily be dragged into an infrastructure that they have no control of. For example, how much money has already been put aside for the compensation of the so-called victims? So how much do they have control for that budget? What if the same appointing authority is disbanded 2 days after the commencement? What happens if they are given lists of people that because they of course have to rely on other agencies that do not provide the correct one? So, and how about the trust that people have? I think it is time to also appreciate that the framers of the Constitution knew that presidential directives happen, and we used to have what I call roadside declarations. We used to have Baba na Mama of everything used to be the president. He'd be appointing everybody from the university chancellors and all that. I think, unfortunately, that's where we're going back to.
Yes.
If we start endorsing these so-called presidential appointed commissions, I think we are going to end up into those roadside declaration. And it's very unfortunate, and this one I want to speak directly to my brother Irongo and my sister Faith, that I think they should refuse to participate in a process that is likely to basically kill their long history of hard work studying with the victim. Because these political actors, I really wish that they can, at least on this particular issue of compensation, that they can move it to the institution that can handle it properly, and actually allow it to go to the final edge. And alongside it, please let it take place together with ensuring that there's no more impunity in this country. As we speak, we're still dealing with some cases of people who have disappeared. Where have they gone?
Wow. What about pushing for the implementation of some of the constitutional bodies that are there in the constitution but have not been implemented? A case in point is the Witness Protection Agency, which also has some remedies for issues of compensation and justice.
Yeah. Well, the truth of the matter is that we have a very good constitution. And the campaign as a Defenders Coalition that we have joined with others is to call for kutekeleza katiba, implement the constitution in the right way. So it means that if you have institutions like the Witness Protection Agency, the IPOA, the Kenya National Commission, they should be given the requisite funding, the resources to be able to implement their mandate. Because you find that some of these institutions are being provided with the bare minimum, basic of resources, that they cannot actually do even the most minimal jobs. So, and you find that if what basically, and some of us actually fear even to work with those institutions. We partner with them, but you find that it's like the state is setting you up to fail. When they invite you to such positions and deny you resources, and the people who want to hold you account, they want to be able to receive services, then how can you deliver on those services? So yes, one of the bigger challenge that we have, it's not that people in those institutions are not willing to work, is that they are defunded and there's a lot of political interference. But they really need to resist that so that they can focus on the mandate.
So you didn't see any goodwill when the president, said that we need to now establish a framework to compensate victims of brutality? You didn't see any goodwill in that?
I'm really hoping that there is goodwill and that the president really means it when he says that we need to compensate the victim, because indeed they need to be compensated. But the compensation, that must also follow a very good infrastructure and a framework on the institution. So for now, I have little faith in that. I also have little faith because other similar initiatives, they have not gone anywhere. And I can tell you, for example, there is one that was established to deal with issues of gender-based violence and femicide. I have not seen anyone talking about that report after a lot of resources that went into it. So I was hoping that the recommendation that people gave, that the president right now should be talking about that. Let's put resources into a framework that will ensure that our women are safe. But where is that report? And that is not just the only report. There are so many other ad hoc groups that are being set up by the president. I think it is time the president to walk the talk and let the institutions thrive, give the resources, give the political goodwill to our institutions, and they are going to function very well.
So the patterns are not encouraging from what I'm hearing from you. Bwana Gashane, Bwana Ngugi here has little faith. I hope it's not in faith.
We have Faith, who was appointed to be the vice chairperson of.
I have faith in faith.
You have faith in faith.
I don't have faith in some of the institutions that she's being invited to serve.
And many Kenyans have faith in the Defenders Coalition and in human rights organizations, but there are others who are very skeptical. Most of the time we see you defending while attacking. Are you your own people?
Look, first of all, let me say that I'm working in an institution called the Defenders Coalition, and there's a few other institutions, and I'm very lucky that I should be able to work in an institutional framework. But I'll tell you, only about 10 10% of the population of people that you call activists are actually operating within institutions. More than 90% of people, civic actors, these are individuals like you and me who are very passionate about rights. They defend human rights. They work in their own communities because they believe defending rights is the right thing, that governance should be carried out in the right way, corruption should be fought by all means necessary, that the police and their institutions should be independent and be able to operate within the law. So that is the clarion call. So you find that the most important thing is that we are driven by passion. And actually, I feel that we should not, in the future, be caring more about our institutions, but to have the whole country driven by the power that we have, that govern of the constitution.
Yes, why are you laughing?
That hold the country to account. Because
Gasane isn't buying your story.
Well, no, you want us to focus so much on piling pressure on governments to ensure there is accountability.
Yeah.
But Kenyans must also demand accountability from the groups. Your group, the human rights defenders,
yes.
Because
so I started by telling you,
yes.
if I was to do what I call the percentage.
Yes.
So human rights defenders, the majority of the people, over 90%, these are people not even institutions, but they are self-committed and they are doing great work at the communities. The few percentage that have institutions are lucky that they are able even to get funding that they use to coordinate programs that support the needy, or in our case, to advocate for people at the front line defending human rights. Now, the people that provide the funding, first of all, mostly will be either will be citizens like you, but in other countries that are philanthropic. They have very, very strong accountability framework. I think one of the biggest, the most over-policed, accountable people, they are the human rights defender institutions. Yes. Because on one hand, I have to account for the resources that I receive to, one, the public through the annual audit reports. At the same time, I also have to account for the same resources to other people who have given you the resources, because you're not just given money to put on the table and then or dish out and just do whatever you want.
Yes.
So there already exists very strong framework. And the third thing that we are, and I think you are aware that we Defenders Coalition and other institutions have been at the forefront advocating for implementation of the PBO Act. This is a law that was passed in 2013, stayed in the cooler for long until President Ruto allowed it to commence in May last year. So what's the plan? It provides for a framework of accountability where people can see what you committed to do, the resources that you have, how they are being utilized. So having said that, what unfortunately happens is that when you have a thief and you're chasing him in the street, what some of these thieves do is that they start shouting thief. So what has happened is that the real criminals are the ones that really have been using the worst narratives to target the people who speak on behalf of the people. So they start talking about these institutions are not accountable. Why? Because they want to divert you from the institutions that are saying your country is not being run well, that young people are being killed, not because they committed crimes, but because they participated and exercised their right to assemble. Yeah. So the other group that is very good at narrative shaping, and that's why now we have a program of telling our own story, and I'm glad for this opportunity to tell our own story, is that we find that other people that are engaged in negative profiling are corporations. They're institutions that want to make money and make profit, but they do not want to be held to account. They want, for example, to set up, in this language of, and everybody wants to set up a business or an industry. You find government participating, evacuate a lot of people, no compensation. So you find the same company, when you start saying you cannot evict people without following the law, there is people for the need for adequate compensation. Those are the same groups that we have been
propaganda.
dealing with that start profiling the accountability institutions very negatively.
Yes.
So the truth of the matter is that there exist both external mechanisms. The Kenya Revenue Authority is one of the strongest accountability framework that all of us have to report to.
Yes.
The banks themselves, in terms of, because there has been concern globally, we are again part of that movement not to allow for money laundering.
Yeah.
So, and we work very closely with the finance task force to ensure that the thieves that start saying thieves are held to account, because you find that the people honestly who are engaging in some of these criminal activities, they're the ones now that want to use the language to paint that negatively. I'll tell you, we as a country, as a human rights defenders, one of the biggest fight and what scares us most is acts of terrorism, for example. I mean, why should we here having a conversation and the next thing someone who hates us just throws a bomb and kills us? So we are the people who
God forbid.
God forbid. And that's why we say that unsupported initiatives whereby come up with the laws, those people who engage in such terrible acts, they should be held to account. What is happening now? The government kills its young people, and then it goes ahead and arrests so many others, and then charges them with what crime? Terrorism. And I know that even the international community, people are worried that, look here, the reason why we fought hard to have these anti-terrorism laws was not to target young people who exercise their right to protest. It was to target criminals that hate democratic advancement.
Thank you. But back to the issue of accountability. Before the show started, Brian was asking me a very simple but very complicated question. And it was in terms of there is a proposed protest that is going to happen in the CBD tomorrow. How does the human rights group or the Robe group help? How does it help those children or people who want to protest to come to the streets? And I mean, in terms of monetary facilitation, when you help those protesters in terms of finance to come to the streets, does the meaning of the protest rules does the protest lose its meaning? Because if, for example, they were...
You're already imputing proper motives. No. I need protection. But finish your sentence.
So the question is, how do you help protesters financially?
So, this language of financing protests, it's totally misplaced.
Yes.
And honestly, again, those negative narratives. The last time I heard of anyone who need to be paid to go to the street to say that I am here because my child was murdered, and I want government to act. I've never heard of a family member who want to go to the street, who want to be paid to go and say that their child was murdered. I've never heard of anyone who want to complain about their evictions from where they are staying, and when they complain that they needed to be funded. I mean, that's what you call negative narratives. And like I've given you an example of negative narratives about terrorism.
Yes.
It's the same negative narratives where you say that for someone to participate in a civic action, they need to be paid. Look here, the people that I know that have paid people to go to either participate in meetings or public rallies are politicians. And those politicians, you know them. And that is the reason why we have some of the poorest, the terrible policy makers in my country. Because those, if you want to show the worst politicians that we have, they are the ones that used money to buy people. And therefore, they don't owe it to you. But for those that legitimately sold their manifesto, explained what they want to do, and are implementing it, they're some of the most effective members of parliament. So I think this is where that the thief again is shifting their focus and now calling the people that they are the bribing people. But I can tell you, the right to protest, first of all, anyone should participate.
Yes.
It is protected by the law, by the constitution. Anyone who violates the law should be held to account, even when they're engaging in protest. and that's the reason why there is a requirement. You need to give notification, not seek for permission. You notify your local police station. The local OCS or officer commanding station is able to, knowing the situation where they're in their own area of command, to arrange for officers to be able to, even within protest, to grab and arrest people who are engaged in violations. And that's when you have seen. And I think what probably you are mistaking is the protesters versus what we call goons. Now, we've been seeing whereby the police seems to be donating their power to people who are not gazetted as officers. So they would walk with them on the street. We saw that during protest. They are carrying crude weapons. They crush people's cars. They injure people, but the police will not talk. They will not touch them. Now, these are the people we should be concerned with. Because at the end of the day, we also see them being paid photos of and videos circulating. They're receiving both the weapons and the resources. We should go after those criminals, because those are the criminals that are framing protesters as bribers. Human rights defenders have never bribed.
So how do you use, in a nutshell, how do you use then the money?
Briefly, maybe briefly.
Yes. How do you use the funding from the donor funding, from members of public?
So the resources that we get basically is to bring awareness about the values of governance.
Yes.
It's about the awareness about how you need to conduct yourself when you are engaged in a civic action. For example, if you're holding a county government to account, like the kind of research you need to undertake, serious research, you can't just go and tell people, oh, X money is stolen. You need to be able to look at the documentation vis-a-vis the project that are on the ground. So that's the kind of investment that we do on what we call in the public, on research and awareness. Because if we don't do that, then you have the most dumb Kenyans. But Kenyans do not need to be that. Kenyans are woke. Kenyans actually,
there's a shortage
in Africa,
of dumb people.
Yeah, in Kenya, I think we are the leaders in awareness about the power of speaking out, but based on numbers and facts.
You know, Bonagashane and I cover politics. We cover politicians, and whenever we hear this language of sisi ni mweupe, mimi ni mweupe kama pamba, the kind of language that you're now speaking, we tend to be very skeptical. It's a language used by politicians. Yeah, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
You better trust that.
Yeah, and we are running out of time, Bwana Ngugi, and I'll just give you a chance to give us your parting shot, and maybe you could frame it around the kind of Kenya you would want to see.
As a country, we are very lucky, because I think anywhere I go to, anywhere in the world, I meet people who just want to come to Kenya. We have the best weather. We have the best people. I think if there are people who love other people, it is Kenyans. I have gone to countries where some of them would hate you, maybe because of the color of your skin or just because of your accent. But I also know that my country is only where you can enjoy your weather. So we have summer throughout the year. I think we also have the diversity of cultures. We have diversity of weather and food. And I think you and me have a duty to protect that. And I think the only serious call we have as a citizen of the people is that the people that we have given the authority, we have donated the authority to rule us, they need to appreciate that we did not give them the power to ruin us. So we only allowed them to lead us in a way that gives us hope, ensures that the sustainability of this country and that our children will also be able to thrive, both academically, socially, and in other ways. So mine is to call upon every Kenyan that you are a human rights defender. You need to defend your country. You should not be dissuaded, don't be pushed back. Forget about those negative narrations about who a human rights defender is. A human rights defender is that person who, when there is a violation that takes place, they don't sit back and say, oh my God. No, they stand up and say, we can't allow this to continue. Be my human rights defender.
Thank you so much. And something I have run today is that I am also a HRD. I'm also a human rights defender.
Yes, you are.
See, everybody
Yes,
who agitates for better governance, who pushes for rights, is a human rights defender.
Indeed. Fellow Kenyans. Article 1 of the Constitution requires you to be a human rights defender.
Yes.
So that's it for us. Until next Thursday, tutapatana.
Viva.
Unfiltered with Bran Otieno and Dongo Gashane.